These stories, townhall.com.
Broadcasting to the U.S. and around the world by way of clear digital audio, 22,500 miles above the planet. This is the Global Star Radio Network.
Making America smart again. It's the Krieger Files with Dave Krieger. Are you tired of your boss stealing from your paycheck to send to a government that's writing checks its body can't cash? It's the government's worst nightmare. Dave Krieger.
Well, and here we are once again on a Wednesday edition, hump day. Oh, man. Well, we have a lot of humps to get over today, don't we? Phone lines are open, 844-769-2944. Steve Stern from Stern American. They held a big shindig at Trump International on Monday. He had to take a day off, and so he's coming on the show. I mean, that was a lot. This guy's 83 years old, and he's fighting election integrity issues on a regular basis. Yesterday, as you know, we had Donald Wilkie on the show, and he was talking about freedom and how you change the perception. And of course, he sent through his publicist I got a text, and it says, "Hi, Dave. It was a pleasure talking to you today. I was just thinking that there might have been a question that you wanted answered that might have been glossed over. In America, there is a party of big government. In the final analysis, only the people can end their influence. For that to happen, the public has to be educated. The message must be simple and inarguable. Competition, waste, and ease fits the bill. People always do what they think is in their own best interest. Once they understand that government can only waste, they will withdraw their support from foolish big government solutions, not only nationally, but throughout the world." I mean, this is something that Donald Wilkie, who cares about the American people, he is not anti-government. Like I said on the show yesterday, governments are necessary to do the work of we the people, not the other way around. And see, the will of we the people matters to this is what Trump was trying to do last night in his hour and some odd, 40-minute, 50-minute, whatever. It's the longest speech in the history of, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But, we already knew that there was going to be a problem last night, didn't we? I mean, it did happen big time. Before we do that, I have a clip from Greg Reese. He's, like I said, he's on his own right now. He has his own Substack platform, gregreese.substack.com. Anyway, so I pulled some of the audio from that clip, and he's talking about DEI and the fact that, all these air accidents, and apparently there has been a lot of plane crashes that are regional in nature. And we're not just talking about the ones we know about, like the Philly jet crash and the DCA Reagan National jet crash between the military helicopter and the airline. There's a lot of plane crashes going on right now, and they're all trying to say that it was DEI, that these people, it's the hires and whatnot. And so, basically what Greg Reese is talking about is how AI could better the traffic controllers' response time. Here's what he had to say.
Whether or not this is normal, it is being shown to us on the news more than usual, which is creating an emotional reaction. And the false narrative being pushed is that it's due to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion hires. But there is zero evidence of this. It's simply another narrative to keep the sleepy masses busy while the solution of replacing humans with artificial intelligence is being implemented.
We're already working with an AI agent company, so they're building AI agents for this aviation data. So what you saw in America recently with the helicopter crash could have been easily preventable, because ultimately the data was there. We can look back at that crash, and we can see those aircraft heading towards each other and crashing. So it wasn't the fact that the data wasn't there, it was just nobody was looking at it at the time, or certainly the people that were looking at it weren't able to do anything about it. So really what we need to be able to do is, why have a human looking at it all the time? Obviously you need a human there to monitor these systems, but if you can use agents to actually detect these issues and then to report them and alert them to the air traffic controllers, then everyone can be alerted to this problem or the situation coming up and actually do something about it.
So they can actually do something about it? reaction time. And you want to let an AI, an artificial intelligence, look at your screens. They want to analyze the data and feed it through a computer. And the computer says, well, I've recently read up on some of the stuff that the AI generates as far as like legal acumen. And it's not all there. There's a lot of just generalizations. AI only is as smart as the human counterparts that are programming it. Well, what if the human counterparts put junk in there and create algorithms inside the AI that don't make sense, and AI doesn't read it right and sends planes crashing into each other? It's like AI sitting there saying, well, you know, we detect that the possibility or the likelihood of Russia launching a nuke on DC just got, you know, I mean, it could start World War III. I mean, it's pretty nutty, isn't it? I told you already that with AI entering the news cycle, it is impossible to tell. And I mean, if you go on YouTube, for example, boy, they're a big proponent of this garbage. And you see all of these AI generated things on America's Got Talent, and you see Howie and you see Simon and you see the other, you know, co-hosts, you know, the judges that are sitting there, the panelists, and they're all freaking out because somebody turned into a lion. And, oh God, you know, that's all AI generated, you know. And the funny thing about it is very few of these shorts that you see on YouTube actually say they're AI generated. But the reactions that the panelists gave, oh, they were very real. But see, the AI, they were reacting to that. And what they were doing is cutting back and forth between the clips. You see, if it's that easy to do edits like that, imagine how many people you could actually fool in the news cycle so you wouldn't know what was real. Yeah, by the way, thank you for all of you in Kansas City listening to the show on KCXL. We just found out from one of our listeners that, yes, indeed, we're being carried on KCXL in Kansas City, Liberty, Excelsior Springs, all the people up in Northeast. We appreciate you listening. And, of course, you can go to the KRIEGERFiles.com to listen to any of the archives from previous shows. Now, something about Panama. Michael Yon in his Substack page. Now, understand that he's an ex-military, you know, I'm not going to use the word cutout. No, he could be. The thing is that he is saying to the Trump administration, look, you need to replace everybody in the U.S. Embassy in Panama, clean house and start over. Because what he is claiming after being down in Panama is that the U.S. Embassy is openly aiding and continues to aid in the transportation of illegal immigrants, even though it's slowed down. There is enough evidence right here that the camps and everything down in Panama are functioning 100%, and they're manned. And UN is partially responsible, but the U.S. Embassy in Panama is openly aiding and abetting, according to Michael Yon. And, of course, they're filled with left-wing LGBT creeps who openly help with the invasion camps. Now, they're going to try to do everything they can, according to Yon, to sabotage America's efforts to stop this. Well, it gets worse. Now we have a situation where BlackRock is going to buy the Panama Canal ports from a Hong Kong firm that claims that it's got some sort of control of the infrastructure along the global trade routes. This is a BlackRock consortium. So I think now the Trump administration needs to focus its attention on these hedge funds, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Oh, you really think that? Oh, Scott Bessent, you think Scott's going to allow the Trump administration to start looking into hedge funds? I mean, Scott Bessent is his own hedge fund manager. Oh, shut up. Yeah. So now we got BlackRock involved in the Panama Canal. Oh, things. Oh, the web we weave, right? All right, now let's talk about what happened with last night's brouhaha. Oh, you could just take that brouhaha and add a bunch more ha 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 to it. Because that's what it was. It was another proverbial shift show. And what was really funny is all the late night talk show hosts then proceeded to make fun of it. And it was like, well, the Democrats were sitting there silently protesting. And we don't know either that or they were bidding on some antique furniture set because they were holding up what looks like these bingo cards, B-42 bingo, waving the bingo card. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? And if you did watch any of this, because we watched a majority of it, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched all the good stuff. Like when Texas Democrat Al Green started waving his cane and telling Trump, you don't have a mandate. You don't have a mandate. And they said, sit down, Mr. Green. And the other side was, sit down, a-hole. They were all yelling and they were out trying to yell him, USA, USA. And Green kept shouting at Trump. And finally, Mike Johnson says, okay, enough. You've been warned. Sergeant at Arms, remove this man. And everybody's clapping. And the Democrats were just sitting there in shock. They didn't know what to make of it. Now they're talking about censoring a resolution censoring Democrat Representative Al Green for heckling President Trump's joint session of Congress. Breach of decorum Republicans are calling shameful. Well, come on. You should know that when the majority is doing supposedly what the will of we the people are doing. I mean, we're not talking about CNN, MSDNC, whatever, making fun of and poking and chiding and ridiculing the young cancer survivor they made an honorary Secret Service agent, okay? Now, whether or not these optics were by design to tug at the heartstrings, I mean, like Riley's mom was there and sister was there, and I mean, all of these things. And what Trump did, he even poked out, he poked at Pocahontas too, if you noticed. And she's clapping, yeah, I'm all for sending all these billions of dollars to Ukraine. Well, tell you what, Liz, we're going to send all your retirement money to Ukraine too. Wouldn't that be fun? When you leave Congress, Liz Warren, you're going to be broke. We're going to freeze your bank accounts and send all your money to Ukraine. How is that? Keep clapping, Liz. Yeah. Yeah, you keep telling us, you warmongering whore. I have a real problem with people like this. They're going to get us into World War III if we don't knock this stuff off, because Russia's military is getting stronger. They don't even have to have conscription. They've got people signing up left and right now. They've got 430,000 troops. And this is just Russia, because Russia knows it's on the side of right. And it's nothing to do with Trump and the Democrats' narrative of Trump being some sort of agent for Putin. Oh, no, no, no. It doesn't work like that. And I think we're all very smart and we understand those things. But then when you have, like Democratic Congressman Al Green being disruptive and Pramila Jayapal from Washington, oh my gosh, by golly, look at my sign. You're a liar. You're a liar. Why do you people up there keep voting her in? Or is she actually stealing the election? Which is it? Are you people that stupid? You really think that these people are out there representing we the people, or they just wanted to get you involved in another war? Hey, if we're going to send billions of tax dollars, why don't we take all the money from people in the blue state cities and the blue states? Why don't we take just their tax dollars and send all that to Ukraine if they want it so bad? And then we'll just point a finger and say, look, you're the only ones that are funding Ukraine right now. Are you happy with the results? And then we're going to tell Putin, look, it's these states right here that need to be wiped out with nukes, because, I mean, if you're going to be pissed off at America, hey, these are the people right here that are sending money over. I mean, you want to point a finger. See, these Democrats, and this is what's really funny about all of this. We have commentary out there from Congressman Brandon Gill calling the Democrats a party of perverts, highlighting their transgender obsession in an interview before the president did the same in front of the whole country. Democrats, by doubling down and tripling down on the radical transgender agenda that American people find incredibly distasteful, by forcing girls to compete with boys in sports and pushing transgender surgery on young kids, they're proving themselves to be the party of perverts. And that's what I said yesterday. And what do you got? Half of Congress, all these Democrats out there like a little tranny action on the side? I'm positing that as a question, because I think you're all perverts. I think the entire government, I don't think it's just Democrats that are perverts. I think there's other people in there too that have had a little side action. Some of these people don't want that list to come out about Epstein Island, and Pam Bondi just got a big document dump out of the Southern District in New York. But then what's worse now, AFLDS is reporting that a court decision out of the First Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, this is the circuit that doesn't give a rat's patootie about homeowners and foreclosures up in New England. They have just ruled last week that in the case of Foote, F-O-O-T-E versus Ludlow School Committee. Now, this is a Massachusetts case. In 2020, an 11-year-old girl in Baird Middle School in Ludlow, Massachusetts, was struggling with transgender confusion, confused about her gender. She had other mental health issues. Mommy and daddy weren't paying attention. The school was encouraging gender dysphoria through practices like asking students to use pronouns. And of course, as soon as this 11-year-old said, "I think I'm genderqueer," all of a sudden, the school district is like, "Oh, cool, let's do this. We'll give you a new name that we'll use here, but when you talk to your parents, do you want your parents to know you're having these issues?" "Oh, no, I can't tell mom and dad. They would not like that." Okay, well, fine. Here's what we'll do. We will sit there and we'll coach you and we'll do all the things you can do to help you transition within our power. And eventually the parents found out and they sued. And guess what the First Circuit Court of Appeal did? It basically ruled that schools can keep gender dysphoria secrets from their parents. Don't you love that? We have a Circuit Court of Appeals. Circuit Court of Appeals that doesn't give a damn about consumers. All they care about is them. I think we need to replace some circuit court judges, don't you? I mean, if they don't want to do the right thing, it's time to start cleaning house. I told you DC needs an enema. Our court system is completely corrupt, folks. I don't know too many honest judges. The ones that I know of, I can count on one hand. That's kind of sad. If you go to therobingroom.com, The Robing Room, like robe on a judge, R-O-B-I-N-G, therobingroom.com. You can pick any state, any district in the federal circuit. You can look and see what people have to say about these judges. And it's not pretty. That's how much people don't trust the system. And I'm just telling you, we look at these things. This is all part of a research and a study, what my team and I do. And, you know, sadly, homeowners are still being taken advantage of. And so are people who are dealing with, and see, because of the fact we have a third of the population 65 and over, there are a lot of people dying. And there's a lot more probate cases coming up. And there's a lot more distrust of attorneys. There's a lot more attorneys out there that think this is a big gravy train for them, that they can milk and they can do dishonest things. And I'm really pissed off about that. The thing is I don't deal in probate that much, except from an investor standpoint. But when it comes to the actual chain of title and things in the land records, I pay very close attention to that. Other things that are going on, too, that we can tell you about. We have, besides BlackRock, Trump, of course, is now cracking down on schools that are basically carrying on with this anti-Semitic tirade. And of course, you probably saw the videos if you were watching YouTube of the Khazarian dirty Jew, Khazarian Jew Schumer. How do they let these Khazarian Jews in Congress? How come people aren't investigating these people? Oy vey. Why isn't that happening? I mean, Trump said not only that on Truth Social, he said he would imprison agitators. He didn't explain what he meant by illegal, and we're talking about these illegal protests. See, the reason people go to school is to get an education, not sit there and participate in whatever kind of political garbage. I mean, they're not majoring in political science, are they? I mean, what's going on here? And the parents, you're paying for this. I mean, unless they're there in a scholarship, why would anybody that has a 4.0 that gets a scholarship to one of these Class A schools, these Ivy League schools? I mean, they literally are, they're starting to feel the effects of their stupidity. And it's not just DEI. And it's not just singular to the institution itself. It's the people within the institution that are putting this crap out there and convincing your son or daughter who you paid righteous money to, if they didn't get good grades and get a scholarship to these places. Anybody that got a scholarship on a 4.0, you'd think would have enough sense not to get involved in this stuff, that they're there to get an education. And because they get a 4.0, you might think that they have a little bit of rationale, a little bit of common sense up there. Maybe they don't. I don't know. If you have a son or daughter that's in college right now, especially in the Ivy League, I mean, we're already talking about sanctions against Columbia. You know, the Semitism, the anti-Semitism, the whatever. It doesn't matter. That is not the issue here. The issue here is that, 2.9% of our population are Jews, right? And there's all different kinds of Jews. Not just the Woody Allen, did you do that? What did you do? No, it's not just that kind of Jew. It's Khazarian Jews, it's Orthodox Jews, it's all different kinds of Jews. Wow. So you have to be a little bit more discerning, because we have caught the Jewish people trying to make themselves look like victims. Now, are these the Orthodox Jews or the Khazarian Jews who aren't the faux Jews? We'll call them that. But then you get Chucky Schumer in there talking to chairs. You've seen the YouTube video, right? I mean, I think the guy is halfway out the door as far as his brain power. Pelosi looked like she was going to have a meltdown last night, too. And, you know, all the takeaways from the speech, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and they're going to say, oh, no, Trump, came away looking like the good guy. And, see, we're still having issues. You can promise all the tax cuts for Americans, but you still got to look at what Congress is going to do. You can claim that the border's closed and deportations are underway, but when we hear stories about the fact that there are people still getting through and that you're arresting people at the border that are still trying to get through, it kind of waters down the story a little. You tout a common sense revolution. I get that, people. We the people are very upset. But there's a certain segment of the population that keep voting in these Democrats that were disruptive last night and holding up what looked like bingo cards with liar, Musk lies, Musk this, Musk that. And of course, they're blowing the whole thing about tariffs out of proportion. If you were really interested, I guess the only way you would be is if all of a sudden you went to the grocery store or the department store and you were going to buy a Tonka truck for your kid and they're made in China, and all of a sudden that Tonka truck that you're going to put under the Christmas tree costs $10 more than it did yesterday because of this. And of course, the highlighting of the Doge investigations, I really think this is scaring half of the Democrats to death because, and here we have another judge, by the way, that have come out and said, oh no, this $2 billion that was earmarked in January, that I'm going to allow to go through. This is a Democrat judge that's telling the Trump administration, no, sorry, we're not doing this. You're not going to cut off that $2 billion in funding. You're going to send that out. I really think that the judges in this country need to have an examination. We need to determine exactly whether they're following the law or their own political agenda. And aside from all the heartstring tugging last night in the speech and the thank you and appreciate you, and we're renaming your daughter, we're renaming a park after your daughter. Okay, fine. We have to make an example. And of course, he looks at all the Democrats and says, people sitting on the right side of the room over here. And I'm not talking about the right. I'm talking about the people sitting on my right. And all you people need to wake up and understand that this is what we, the people, wanted. I don't think he spent enough time calling out the bingo cards and saying, why are you people doing this? You call this silent protesting? Like this is going to make a difference to the constituents in your district? Obviously, the majority of Americans, because that's apparently how your democracy operates, is majority rules. Well, the majority is tired of the last 4 years. But the scary thing about all this, whether they look like spoiled brats or not, Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury welcoming with the "This is not normal" signed, an intern probably made in 90 seconds. What was not normal? She couldn't have meant Trump's presidency. I mean, even Tucker Carlson slammed him. But see, the thing is this divisive behavior, it's still there. It doesn't matter. Balancing the budget, good luck with that. When you've got everybody out there wanting to spend like drunken sailors in a strip club, I can't help it. It's going to happen. Just like what, our guest yesterday said. Look, you've got to cut waste. Because when you have waste, when you have people that are catering to all these folks, oh, don't cut Medicaid, and they're all waving signs and placards. Don't mess with Medicaid. Look, we're auditing Medicaid. We're auditing Social Security. There are people out there, like you pointed out, that are getting millions of dollars that shouldn't be. Somebody's lying. And see, if we don't take the bull by the horns and fix the situation, it's just going to continue to the point where people start taking matters into their own hands. I don't think our government wants that now, do they? We'll be back with Steve Stern after the break here in the Krieger Files. Stay with us. 90 seconds. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
With inflation constantly chewing away at the value of paper money, perhaps it's time for Americans to bite back. Ownership of gold and silver coins provides great counterbalance to weaker paper money value. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins. You can reach us directly at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282. A trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282.
It's time to send another message to Washington. It's the Krieger Files.
Yep, you have to send a message to Washington. Steve Stern's been doing that for a long time. He's in charge of election integrity down there in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. And Steve Stern had to take a break from Monday's big March 3rd event at Trump International. And, I can understand. You probably all worn out from that, weren't you, sir?
I'm still worn out. I actually came home for an event and slept 3 hours.
Goodness.
It took 6 weeks to plan this thing. We had a golf tournament, we had election security call, and then we had speakers. So they told me I didn't sit down for more than 5 minutes through the whole day other than to be on there. So people want to go see it. It's on Stern American Rumble, and we'll tell you all about it because it was pretty interesting. We had over 10 million views, and actually Cloud Hub had it on there and it had 139,000 views. We looked at it today, they had 269,000 views. So this is still going strong. And on Sunday, the War Room's going to put it up because Maureen Bannon was there, but it started at 10 o'clock. So they couldn't stream it because the War Room is on then. So we started off with Brian Swenson. And I got him on because Brian Swenson is a senior advisor for election integrity for the RNC. And I saw him on Cleta Mitchell's Zoom a couple of weeks ago. I've spoke to him many times, saw him. He's been on my show. And I heard things that I hadn't heard before about how he won the election. And I think everybody's got to go see this because he talked about all the different states and what they did different than the 2022 election. And we got to do this for the 2026 election because when I talked to him prior to him coming in, we discussed, hey, we can't go to sleep. I mean, people are starting to sign up to run for office because you saw last night, and I'm glad we did this today instead of yesterday, because we saw the president talk and we saw how stupid the Democrats were. I think they put themselves in the ground yesterday after them putting up these signs and, yelling and screaming and acting like 2-year-old childs, which they probably are. So Brian gave us a lot of information, and then we had General Flynn on, and General Flynn talked about what President Trump was doing, how how some of the religious organizations and charities were getting this dark money, how money was being laundered and fraud. And, he brought up all the things that they're doing to show where all this money's been going, not only through the Biden administration, but for 20, 30 years. And the reason we're in debt, and we can see this, and as Doge gets into, more and more, and we discuss this and everybody discusses it, we can see how silly the United States looks when they started talking about where all this money goes, and it probably doesn't even go where they say it's going to go. So Flynn talked about this for about 15 minutes. Then I had my counterpart on, Raj Diyajami. He hosts a show with me, and he talked about election reforms and leadership going forward. Because even though Trump won by a landslide, the down ballots were still being stolen, and we had a lot of people on there talking about how they were stolen. We had Chris Gleason, who is in Pinellas Park, who showed where there's 139,000 ballots that came out that nobody asked for. And they're suing him now. We got Peter Tickton, one of the big attorneys, is working with one of the people who ran for office and suing Pinellas Park. So there's 3 big counties that are still blue in Florida: Pinellas, Broward, where I am, and Palm Beach. So we had John Siamis and John Bongiorno on. John Bongiorno ran for supervisor of elections, and Wendy Link, who won, had more votes than Kamala Harris. So how is that possible? So they're working on showing how the fraud was in Palm Beach. And even though I didn't think there was much fraud in Fort Lauderdale, many are coming out with proof of how this is happening. Then we had my favorite on, Linda Sinkowitz. She talked about cleaning the voter rolls. Now, all over the country, this is what a lot of my people are talking about. As much as we're trying to clean the voter rolls, we still have California that's a disaster, that has millions of people on the voter rolls that don't belong, and plenty of illegal aliens. So we had a number of people talk about that. But Linda has fightvoterfraud.org. She's showing where people have voted twice in different areas in the country, and she could send anybody 500 that are doing that. Then we had Deb Monks on. I have her on once every 4 or 5 months. She talks about who's printing the ballots and where the ballots are going. In other words, let's say you're in Florida and they have to print 1 million ballots, let's say, but they print 1,100,000. Well, where did all those 100,000 ballots go? And that's where we have a lot of these problems. And she's pointing out some of the, talking about some of the risk assessment that we're going to have to do going forward. So very interesting. Then we had a superstar on, Marley Hornick. Marley Hornick is United Sovereign America, and she just blasted away about how the election was stolen and how the fraud in California is worse than any place else. So you want to see this, because there is a lot of information out there, and I could tell you some of it, but you want to actually go on and see it, and we're going to tell you how to see it. Also, Greg Stenstrom came on. Now, Greg is one of my favorites. He gave me his book. He autographed his book, and I gave him a Trump ring, which I want to go on my desk. I have an extra one.
Yeah, we've had Greg on the show before, Steve, believe it or not. So, I get where you're going with this. Now, we also have another issue going on in California right now, and that is people right now are trying to recall LA Mayor Karen Bass because of her lack of response over the LA fires. How do you think that's going to go based on your current knowledge of the way things are in California?
Well, LA County is the worst. They have more fraudulent ballots than any place else. But I did want to show you this because one of our guys, Ed Inman, and I hope we can see it for the people that are going to watch on Rumble. There's a Trump ring that I gave out to about 15 people. I gave it to Greg because Greg, as you know, has lawsuits in many areas. And Inman, who's given me many gifts. So we had him. Here's a USA ring. So every time I get him, he sends me something, which is pretty nice. I mean, I appreciate that. And he donated to our event, which was the Broward Republican Executive Committee fundraiser. You can see Trump on the outside. He was actually there Sunday when we were there setting up. He didn't come in Monday because he had to get ready for his talk last night. But our guys did a tremendous job on our little brochure. And you talked about California. Republican Red is one of our sponsors. And we had many sponsors in this event. And so it was a fundraiser, election integrity call, and also we had speakers. So we also had Robin Sachs talking about what's going on in Maryland. And, of course, that's so important because nobody talks about Maryland, but she did a good job in talking about that. And then we had a guy on who's on X all the time, John Goodman. John talks about mail-in ballots. He does a great job. He's friendly with a lot of people in Fox. We had Chris Marino, my chair. He and I talked about precinct strategy. Let's go back over that because General Flynn also talked about that. And your viewers that are going to watch this on Rumble, and I tell everybody, I know you're on the radio, but you also show this on Rumble. You want to see this precinct strategy. Dan Schultz wrote the book on, and you should buy the book. It's $10 on Amazon. It's very important about getting involved in the Republican Party. And Dan and I have worked together for 4 years. He's worked with Steve Bannon for 14 years. Now, Steve Bannon was coming on our program via Zoom, and there was technical difficulty. So his daughter, who happened to be there playing golf, did the talking for him, and she was terrific. And then we had two great speakers in our main speaking event in the afternoon. We had Kevin Sorbo and Sam Sorbo. Kevin is a fantastic actor. He's doing so many movies. Now, he got bounced out of Hollywood because he was a Republican and he opened up his own company.
Yes, he did. Sorbo Studios. Yes, we've had Sam on the show. They're great people, Steve.
Great.
Yeah, you're in good company.
So Sam talked about what we have to do in the public schools to, make it happen. Now, I'm going to talk about why I'm on every program. The main reason we want to talk about Tina Peters. And I want to tell you that I spoke to her attorney, Pat McSweeney, and we're asking everybody to get him on to talk about this. Now, Mike Lindell was up with President Trump 2-3 weeks ago, I think, when CPAC, I remember it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. He spent an hour and a half with President Trump. And on one of the things which was brought to me by Dr. Frank, he turned to Lindell, put his finger up, and he said, Tina Peters. And President Trump turned to his 4 attorneys there and said, get her the hell out of jail. And right now, there's so many people working on this, but the biggest problem is that the more we work on it, the more they treat her unfairly in jail. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on with with our department who are trying to get her out of jail. It's not a federal offense. It was a state offense, so President Trump can't do it. So everywhere I go, we talk about Tina Peters and try to bring her name up because she's a true patriot and she can't speak. So we try to speak for her. Now,
yeah, but civil rights, Steve, if I can interject here, there are civil rights issues with incarcerating people, and it doesn't matter whether it's state or federal. 42 USC 1983 is a civil rights action that her attorney can bring against state officials for treating her any differently than they would a regular inmate. So I have a problem with the way that these state people think that they can get away with. The justice system still needs an enema. I mean, we all know that.
So she filed a habeas corpus, and when she did that, they started putting her in different cells, and they put her in a cell with 25 people. So to make sure she would stay up at night. And when she requested putting her back in the cell, they say she's a bad inmate because she's not doing that. And it's terrible. So we need to let the people know about that. Now, during our online event, we had a guy came down. A lot of people flew in, which was terrific. And we had a guy drive in with his wife, Dan Sperliglio, who is also on the radio and TV and everywhere. He's called the voice of the people. He got us close to 6 million people on the Zoom and on radio. We had 89 different countries on this. Now, it's still going on. This is the funny part about it. And a lot of people, Steve Gruber once questioned me and said, Steve, how do you get these numbers? And, I sent them all the numbers. We have it on Cloud Hub. Cloud Hub yesterday had 138,000 people, and today they got 269,000. So, we look at the real figures. Now, we put the figures on before they gave us the 269 because, we try to do it one time and not do it. So we only produce the figures that we know about. We had a lot more on, and I'll tell you why. We had yournews.com, which Sam Anthony. he had it on, and he actually played in the golf event. And we had a beat the pro, and his shot was better than her shot, so he won something. And so yournews.com puts it on. He has no idea how many people he gets it on. Totalnews.com, the same thing. And many people that we have on aren't on Rumble, and they just get people on. So it could be up to 12, 14 million. So the voice is coming out there, and it's very important. And two of the things that I want to talk about today, which I don't normally talk about, but you mentioned it the last time I was on your show, the flagshirt.com. You know, I'm the COO of flagshirt.com. And if everybody goes to www.theflagshirt.com, we just got in a lot of new different type shirts. We also now have earrings. We have wraps. We have all different type of stuff. It's just not our shirts that are seen in the background and our capes. So it's important to go to flagshirt.com. This is the time to be patriotic, because I was on for 4 years talking about patriotism. And, you know, we do a big July 4th thing. And patriotism went down from 60, 70% down to 33%. Well, I'm happy to say we're up at 48%. So it's moving to the upside. So you should buy your shirt and go out and show people, just like I just came from lunch and the guy said, hey, you must be a Republican. So I said, yes. And I took out my card. I gave him one of my cards. He also saw me wearing my Trump hat, fight, 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 which is actually my secretary got me this for a gift, which is very nice of her. And I give him one of my cards today, and he says, you know what? I want to get involved. What I heard last night about what Trump said about all the money being wasted, and here my taxes are being paid for all these crazy things that these people are doing. I think Americans are waking up, you know? So one of the things I'd like to tell your audience, which I think is very important, is that when we won the election, I was happy to get many texts and emails, but the text that I got the nicest was Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles and Wayne Root said, you know, your people who are listening to all the people you put out understand now what has to be done in election integrity, because so many people said, hey, there's no problem with fraud or anything like that. It's so ridiculous. Just like, wait, I didn't know my money was going to spend for the Congo and for this one and that one for crazy stuff. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, because nobody told you. But now when all the stuff is coming out and we're telling people about this, they're saying, wait a minute, maybe my election is stolen, so I have to get involved, because we need poll watchers and poll workers. Now, I asked Brian when we start getting poll watchers and poll workers signed up. He said about 3 months, you'll be able to go to protectthevote.com, which is the RNC way to be a poll watcher and poll worker. And if you don't think that was important, in the last election, 2022, we had 112,000 poll watchers and poll workers. In this election, we had 220. That made a big difference. And, you know, all these things that we do make a big difference. Now, when you get 8, 9, 10, 11 million people on a call, people are listening. They're listening around the world. And we get text, emails. And the nice thing is, I tell everybody, if you want to speak to any of our speakers, we will give you their phone number. Today alone, I got 5 or 8, points of trying to get information about some of the people we had on, because they want to know more information about all these things that these people are talking about. Now, I'm not the expert. I bring the experts on because there's so many people working on this that we want to hear it. So we're going to have another one 2 weeks from this Thursday coming up. And we're going to try to have some new people on. Somebody just sent me one from Montana. Excuse me. And we want to get people on from Washington, the state of Washington, and California, and areas we didn't have before. So you'll know what's going on maybe in your own state. Now, I know we only have a little bit of time left. I know I always give you some questions. Some of your people that are listening have questions. Please shoot them out. Glad to answer them. And then we'll talk a little more about some of the people that are helping us.
Right. And the toll-free number is 844-769-2944 for those of you who want to chime in and ask Steve Stern a question about what he knows about who may be operating in your state that you can call directly. There seemed to be a problem, too, and this is something, Steve, that I think you've addressed before, and you have, of course, precinctstrategy.com, and there are people that have been literally tossed out because of their viewpoints. When they start looking at and criticizing the status quo, they get bounced out of the precinct committee chair situation or as a precinct committee member. they get bounced out of there because they start getting critical with the process. Have you seen this happening around the country?
Right now, there's 400,000 slots and about 210,000 people involved. Now, we've seen a lot of stuff happening in different areas. We've talked about why there's only 210,000, not 400,000. And the reason is just what you're saying. In some areas, and it's changed a lot because what's happened is for 2 years, the MAGA people are getting in office. And remember that every county in the United States has a, either a town committee. And just to give you one example, in Massachusetts, a girl, Sue O'Sullivan, Chainsaw Sue, about 2 years, she started and opened up 42 new town committees. Now, she thought she was getting everybody was MAGA. She got a lot of establishment people. They started changing around, but there was nobody there in Massachusetts that even had a town committee. So that's terrific. Now, in Florida, we have bounced a lot of these people out, but we also have problems with some of the areas where the chairman of Florida puts his nose in where it doesn't belong. And just in one of the areas, there was a fight in Bradenton, and they actually closed down the whole. That's the first time in history we closed down a executive committee, and now they're going to redo it because one side and the other side fighting, and they didn't know which side was really right. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, when you're saying fighting, are you talking about actual fisticuffs?
No, but what happens is an officer, a chairman, sometimes brings in the police to route out people he doesn't want in there.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And then we have people that, let's say, we had a new chairman in Palm Beach, really nice guy. 20 people left because they didn't like him. And this is what happens. So we lose people all the time. Now, in Broward County, we're pretty lucky. I'm the vice chair, and Chris Marino, who we had on, and you want to listen to him on our Zoom, he goes by the rules. We have, last meeting, 40 new people come in. Wow. So if you play by the rules, and we run our meetings very tight, we give people a chance to speak, but if somebody's rowdy, we just rowdy them out. I mean, we give everybody a chance, and we do everything, and we have raised more money than any other chairman or any other committee over the last 20 years. I've been there for 25 years. People are putting their money in to support the candidates. In Broward County, which is a blue county, we got 43 new Republicans elected, maybe not to the biggest areas, but areas where we start the people to learn how to run office, how to become an office and then do it. Now, just last night, as tired as I was, I went to the Western Republican Club, and we had General Chris Eddy there, who ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He was the best candidate we ever had. He's a retired brigadier general in the Air Force. He's a retired guy from the FBI, and he also teaches school in FIU. He is a numbers man, and he is showing where we are now registering 3 more Republicans to every Democrat in Broward County. However, they have a big, stronghold, and a lot of people, an extra maybe 8% more than we have in Republicans. So we're battling it down. And just last night, he said we're going to start to actually go out at gun shows and every place else and start to register Republicans to wipe out the Democrats in Broward County, because there's only about 6 counties in Florida that are blue, and we have over 1 million more Republicans in Florida than we have Democrats. So you can see what's happening. This state, because no taxes, many people came from New York and the other areas. Overall, the elections are pretty fair. Where they're not, we're working on it. There's still people that try to pull the plug out. They try to do the machines. So, President Trump is working on getting rid of the machines, getting everybody to have an ID, paper ballots. So we're working very hard. I see all the time stuff going up to Congress, and we're hoping over the next month or so, you're going to see a big change in the way we run our election. But even then, because it comes down to your county. So we need people to get involved. General Flynn was talking about that yesterday. He's a committee man. John Fredericks, he's a committee man. We have a lot of people who are on the radio and on TV that have joined the Republican Party and have become that. Our leader is naturally Steve Bannon. He's got the biggest following of the MAGA, very close to President Trump. He tells me he speaks to him almost every day. So, he's got his ear. And, people around the country are really coming up. They see how bad the Democrats are. I mean, last night's show was one of the best shows to help the Republicans. President Trump, that was the best speech he ever gave. Everybody said that. He, and a lot of that stuff people have heard about a week before. You've heard it, what he did. And he was very succinct, right on the button on, what was happening. So, again, if somebody wants to get involved, go to Stern American. You can follow me on Stern American on X. You can email me at stern1024@gmail.com. You want to call me 954-318-6902. Wherever you can put that up, let them know. We have a few minutes. I know we get off here about 1 o'clock. So give me a couple of questions and I'm glad to answer them.
Yeah, we actually have 2 minutes left. And so the thing is that you notice, and this is really amazing, right after this, hours after Trump's speech, 70-year-old Sylvester Turner, who's a Democratic congressman from Houston, passed away. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not.
70 years old, and it made me wonder exactly what caused him to die at 70 years of age. I just wonder about that. I know it wasn't Trump's speech that killed him. And then he called out Pocahontas, and then, of course, Al Green. They're looking at censoring him for his misbehaving, and Caroline Leavitt warned people about, look, don't go in there trying to be disruptive. We will deal with you. And Mike Johnson, thank God, did the honorable thing. Was there anything else, I guess, in closing, because we got a minute left, that you found significant about Trump's speech other than the big reveal?
No, I think that he just stated what he was going to do and explained about the tariffs and everything else that was happening. And I think people wanted to know about that and, where they were stealing the money, and that we were going to try to cut the deficit down, which, the Democrats don't understand that whatever it is, 37 trillion, we just keep borrowing money. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. So I want to thank you very much for having me on today. I turned down a lot of shows yesterday and also the rest of the week because I got to rest.
I know. You do. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
More than you know.
This event that we did took a lot of energy, 6 weeks. I got up, didn't sleep the night before because, I got there like 6 o'clock in the morning. We took pictures with all the golfers. We had 66 golfers. We gave out 10,000 if you got a hole in one on one of the holes. So we had a lot of prizes. I mean, people were texting me after it. I mean, I didn't answer the next day saying how wonderful it was. Everybody got to meet each other. We had all kind of gifts for people. We had Gary Player's son.
Interesting.
Player's son. His name is Gary Player. He played in the tournament. He signed autographs and he gave us some nice pictures that we gave away. So all in all, everybody had a fantastic time. We gave them a nice cooler bag. We gave them golf balls. So everybody got something.
There's a lot of stuff going on there, Steve. Sounds like a great turnout. We appreciate that. We're out of time for today. There's the music, folks. That means we got to cut loose. In the meantime, we're trying to change things here. We can't do it without you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. We'll see you tomorrow. Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282. A trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
Many Americans are growing increasingly concerned about the rapidly growing U.S. government deficits, recognizing the additional printing of paper money devalues U.S. currency. To compensate, American gold and silver coins will provide wealth protection. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins delivered directly to our clients. You can reach us at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
You're tuned to the Global Star Radio Network, Thanks for listening.